Back live with you tonight here on In Focus. Calls for the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal to come clean on what went wrong as far as the KwaZulu-Natal school nutrition program. Inkatha Freedom Party says heads must roll to send a clear message that incompetence should not be tolerated. The IFP is responding to this disastrous national school nutrition program, which has seen pupils at more than 5,000 schools in the province go without food since the start of the second term. The service provider and subcontractors in the feeding scheme pulled out of this contract. IFP leader Velenkosini Hlabisa joins us now for more on this. Hlabisa, good evening and thank you very much for your time. As the official opposition in the province, what do you make of the latest developments in this particular matter? The ANC clearly saying they've accepted the withdrawal of the contractor in this particular matter. To that point, the province, the department has now issued, I see, a circular which says they are now reverting to the old contract. So the policy says if the new contractor fails, revert to the old contract. Subcontractors and suppliers are now being called to continue to go and find food. Firstly, let's talk about the tender scope that was changed. Do you believe this was done irregularly? But secondly, the awarding of the tender itself, do you think it was fraudulent?
Good evening, my brother, as well as the viewers of Newzroom Afrika. Indeed, as we indicated on Monday, the tender process was manipulated and resulted to the outcome that was not in accordance to the tender as it was made in December 2022. That is why, therefore, the IFP, Thabo, demanded and gave the Premier 7 days to terminate the contract. Most unfortunately, the ANC made an announcement today that the tender has been terminated. This is the function of the government, Thabo, not of a political party. There should be a division of who does what, to such an extent that the Premier nor the MEC have not made an announcement, but all that we saw is a circular signed by an employee of the department, not the political head of the department, nor the political head of the province. But nevertheless, Thabo, because our bottom line was to get the incompetent tender and main service provider terminated. We welcome the outcome as we had given the Premier 7 days. And we have also noted the circular that we are referring to ensure that learners do have food on Monday, on Tuesday next week, on the 2nd after the long weekend. But most of all, we are requesting the Premier to appoint an independent forensic investigator who will go to details on what happened and who was responsible of manipulating the tender, so that whoever was responsible, there must be consequence management.
What do you suspect would come out of that? Particularly, let's begin with the relationship between Pasina Retail and the African National Congress in KwaZulu-Natal, considering what you've just said, because they were the first ones to come forward and say, in fact, they accept that this contract has been terminated.
Thabo, I wouldn't want to speculate much, but I believe the independent forensic investigation will reveal a lot here, because the mere fact that it is the ANC that announces the termination of the contract, it should tell you that it was the ANC that instructed the MEC to award the tender to the main tenderer, which became a flop at the end of the day. That is when you read between the lines, because if things were done correct, it must have been the MEC for Education or the Premier who makes the announcement, not the ANC. Probably the ANC has realized that we made a mistake. Probably they are owning the mistake. But it was not necessary for the ANC to do this, because now they are telling us that they are hands-on on tenders if they are the first people to go public to announce the termination of a contract between the government and the service provider. It is unfortunate. I really don't know why they are doing this, or maybe it's because of their culture of doing one blunder after a blunder.
It's unclear, Hlabisa, at this point, as you put it, whether or not, in fact, it's actually without a doubt that costs have been incurred, because one of the conditions for the withdrawal that have been put forward by Pasina was that they can cancel the contract provided that the costs that they've incurred so far are actually taken care of. Do we have any knowledge of how much has been spent so far on this contract?
I'm sure, Thabo, you saw the statement by the ANC. It does not talk about any cost incurred by the service provider, but there is a note that was circulating from morning, written by service provider to Mr. Ngobo, where the service provider said he is opting out of the nutrition program provided he is paid the cost incurred. Now, we are waiting for the Premier or the MEC to tell us that, because even ANC did not tell us. Once the Premier tells us the condition under which the service provider opted out, we will start to ask a question as to what is it that the service provider has rendered, because all we saw is rotten food, and there should be no money that must have been paid to the main contractor. And secondly, we want to know if the service provider says on condition they will pay, how much is going to be paid to the main service provider for what? We will ask that question once either the MEC or Premier commits. But even if they can hide, the forensic investigator will reveal if any money was paid to the main service provider as to how much and it was for what. We will leave no stone unturned on this matter, because clearly, Thabo, there is something happening behind closed doors. That is why you see the ANC coming forward to make an announcement, something which should not have been done, but should have been done by the government, not the ANC.
Yeah. As you put it, from that note that we are seeing circulating, particularly with the work that has been done by Independent Online on this particular matter, it does say in this resignation that the company is pulling out on a condition it was paid all the costs it had incurred so far while distributing food. Do you believe they deserve any payment at all as far as the IFP is concerned?
Thabo, they do not deserve any payment. Why? Their appointment was fraudulent. So now any proceed from a fraudulent appointment is a fraudulent payment. So they don't deserve even a black cent. And we are waiting, because even what you are quoting, Thabo, you were not told by the department nor by the Premier unless maybe it missed me. But so far, as I've been following the matter the whole day, we only saw that note circulating in the social media. The government is mum about that, but they will not hide forever. But to answer your question precisely, the main contractor does not deserve even a black cent. It was a fraudulent appointment. Any payment to him will be a fraudulent payment also.
The other note that we are seeing, Hlabisa, is that the SIU has written to the KZN Department of Education to request more information about this 2.1 billion rand school nutrition tender, saying that the information will be used to motivate for a proclamation to investigate the matter. You believe it would serve the province, certainly, if the SIU could take up this matter?
Thabo, the letter from SIU was written in February to the Department of Education, demanding all evidence and supporting documents to be submitted by end of March 2023. Now, it only surfaces now because the matter is on the public domain. We believe the SIU must do its work because it is an apparatus for the state. But over and above that, the Premier must appoint an independent investigator. We do not want people appointed by the Premier because ANC cannot investigate itself. They will produce the result that will be biased. We want an independent one who will ensure that no stone is left unturned and consequence management follow. All the people in the supply chain, the head of the department will have to see the consequence management because either they flouted the system or the head of the department was asleep on duty.
Going forward, outsourcing of critical programs such as this one, what have we learned in how they should be handled?
Do not rush things. The new migration from the old system of providing food to school, the intentions might have been good to benefit the small and medium enterprise companies. But this was done over a rush of about 2 months. If you want to do migration, give enough time, but also start with a pilot project so that you know when you roll out the whole of KwaZulu-Natal, you will not have challenges. And secondly, no fraud will be able to be done and not identified by people. The appointment of the main service provider was fraudulent, and people picked it very early that the appointment process was flouted and manipulated to favor only one person. The government of our country at a provincial and national must learn no fraud or corruption will go unnoticed, and the fraud that is taking place takes us back because kids have been going to school with empty stomachs.
Yeah, certainly.
All this drama that has been happening over this matter of nutrition was not necessary if people are not only thinking for themselves and want to benefit out of the money that belongs to the people of the province of KwaZulu-Natal.
Hlabisa, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on. IFP party leader there, Velenkosini Hlabisa, reflecting on, of course, developments as far as the KwaZulu-Natal school nutrition program is concerned.